Boone, can you, sorry, just keep an eye. Can you see
Sure.
the waiting room?
Yes,
waiting room?
I can.
Yeah, you can let people in there.
Yep.
Fabulous. Okay. All right, just check. Yep. All good. Okay, so welcome and apologies, as I said, for the getting in thing. It's yeah, one of those challenges we're hopefully dealing with, because we're going to try not to use Eventbrite moving forwards. I've got someone else to say. Sorry. Right. So yeah, so we're doing stuff about bread, obviously. That's what you've joined for. We've got amazing people helping us. Irene has got lots of incredible techniques and things she's going to show us. She's been busy making lots of doughs last night, and we've got Nicole debuting, and she's making a giant pretzel, which is very exciting. And we've got Pearl, who is, I think it's also, Pearl, your first time on one of these, and she's making chapati, which is exciting. And I'm doing a cauliflower, the token little bit of gluten-free can help you with a lot more of that stuff moving forwards if anybody's interested. But I do know that most people come to listen to the glutinous stuff, because last year Irene, Boone and I were involved in a class face-to-face, and there was one person out of 40 who wanted to know about gluten-free. So I'm doing my little token, little tiny bit, and the others can will spend most of the time doing theirs. All right. Okay, so first of all, as well, I just want to mention that our host rewards have changed. I don't know if you've noticed that, but now the host rewards are now going to include, I can't show you one yet, but we'll be getting one later in the month. We now have a white thermo server, which is 2.2 litres with a clear lid. And that's to be used in your varoma for making yogurt and things like that. It's absolutely beautiful. We also have we've got all the different thermo servers you can see behind me there. And they are now not coming as a bundle anymore. They are coming sort of individually. If you do host and you want 2 of these, you do get 2 of these. These are 500 mils. Otherwise, we've got the 2.6 litre one there, and we've got the 2.5 oval thermo server there as well as bread mats. So all the host rewards really are pertinent to this class. So that's pretty exciting, because I'm sure that we'll share during the time that you can help prove your bread using your thermo server. All right, so I am going to start with my cauliflower pizza base. So we'll just come and have a look here at my screen. Okay, so just actually, before we start, does anyone not have a TM6? If you could just post in the chat box down the bottom there, there's a little chat thing there. If you could just post down there, because if you don't, then I'll keep going. But if you want to have a look, okay, we've got a few people who don't have a TM6. All right, I'll give you a quick little run through the TM6 so that you've got some idea about what it is and what it does and what it's like. So it does look similar to your TM5, except obviously the screen is bigger, and it doesn't need to have a cookie on the side. It's a smart connected kitchen. It's all inside. We've got our time, temperature, speed, which you have on TM5s, and TM31 there as well. Okay, so we've got time, we've got temperature, we've got speed. Whichever one of these is large is controlled with this knob. So we can turn up the time there, our temperature when that one's large, and that's our speed. Then, just like a smartphone, we can swipe to the side, and we have a whole lot of functions on here. So we've got our scales. There are 1 gram increments, which is, I think the TM35 and the 5 are both 5 grams. We've got dough mode, obviously for kneading your bread. We've got turbo, which both of the other machines have. I love turbo. We've got a pre-clean mode, and this has just been updated so that you can actually, you can choose whether you're doing browning. Oops, it's going to stop it. Whether you're cleaning up after browning, if you're cleaning up after dough, universal. I think Irene's probably talking about the dough because she used it last night for that. And there's also a fat mode there for your cleaning. So we've got 4 different ways of cleaning. Automatic blend, got the egg boiler, and I used this yesterday. It was fabulous. So basically, you click in there, and it basically says here you put your eggs straight into the bowl. Don't need a blade cover or anything. Straight in, blades and all. And then, depending on how you want your eggs cooked, is what you turn it up to. So we had medium hard ones because I wanted them hard boiled yesterday. So that's fantastic. Really loving that. And I know Pam's used that a bit too. Got the kettle mode, got a warm up mode. Haven't tried this yet, but basically if we click on the little information thing here, it says it's for heating milk, soups, sauces and stews. Make sure there's enough liquid so the food can move freely and be heated thoroughly. So that's pretty cool. We've got thicken, which is for sauces like bechamels and custards. We have a rice cooker, so there's all different ways that you can, all different sorts of rice and quantities you can cook. Most of these modes are not the egg boiler or the warm up or the pre-clean, but a lot of them are just using guided cooking. And then if we swipe this way, we've got the fermentation mode, which is also helpful for proving dough, slow cooking and sous vide, and lots of space here for more. So that's one of the exciting things about this TM6, because it is Wi-Fi connected. They can just literally, you know, we woke up earlier last week and we have new modes on there. So that's pretty cool. All right, but today, let's get on with the pizza base. So I'm going into my week here, where I've saved a recipe from Cookie Do, and we're doing the cauliflower crust pizza. So I've got my 50 grams of Parmesan cheese. As I've taken my lid off, I just want to tear my scales.
I wonder how late we are.
Put the lid on. 15 seconds on speed 8. I don't know if you know, but when you actually when you actually buy ready grated cheese in your supermarket, you're actually getting anti-caking agent as well. So that's the great thing about being able to chop up your own or grate your own cheese. You're just getting what you need. It will last longer in the fridge as a whole block anyway, and you're not getting any of those additives and preservatives. Whenever you're scraping out your bowl, scraping down to the bottom, and then just going in a clockwise direction. When you go in a clockwise direction, you just hit the rounded side of the blades, not the sharp side. Here we go. Okay. That's for later. One cauliflower cut to pieces, approximately 600 grams. So I'm only showing you this. I could have pre-cooked my cauliflower, but I thought you might like, anybody who hasn't made cauliflower rice, this will show you actually how you make cauliflower rice too. So I am the gluten-free person in the team. That's why you have to cop a little bit of gluten-free. But the pizza bases are delicious. And as I said in our last class, when it was face-to-face last year, it was very successful. Everybody loved it. So 5 seconds, speed 5. I've got my simmering basket. The TM6 simmering basket has a lid on it. There you go, cauliflower rice, 5 seconds. So I've got to tip this into there. That's too much of a mess. And scraping it down. There's a good little tip coming up, which the recipe actually includes, which I love about it. Next, 500 grams of boiling water. So by using your boiling water, you tend to cut about 5 minutes off the time of your steaming. Whether you're using it for this, whether you're using it with your aroma, if you boil the water first, going to save you a bit of time, and we're all into time saving. Just put this down a little bit further over here. All right. So, and you're probably all aware, but with your the little hook on your spatula, you can actually hook in here and use it as a handle. So I don't have to get near that boiling water. Pop that on there. And this is going to cook for 15 minutes on speed 2. Okay, I've done the preheating and all that sort of stuff in my oven. So I think we are now over to Pearl. Please, Boone.
Hi all, my name is Pearl, and today I'm going to show you how to make chapatis. Does anybody know the difference between chapatis and rotis? They are both flat bread. Chapatis are usually made with wheat flour, whereas rotis are made with plain flour normally. But you can use whatever flour you want, whatever you have in the house, that's fine. Chapatis and rotis are both rolled out very fine. They are very thin. You use rotis and chapatis with, you can eat them with your chicken tikka or butter chicken or Goan chicken shakuti or vegetable or meat, so anything you want. Here we have our chapatis with for breakfast or lunch or dinner. So you can use it as a substitute for rice or whatever you want. Now, another thing is difference between a roti, chapati and a paratha. Paratha is a layered version of roti. You bail it out or roll it out, put ghee, fold it like a kerchief, roll it out again, maybe 5-6 times. So that's what your paratha is. And parathas are mostly in North India. That's their specialty. They also stuff parathas with potato or mince or any leftover that you have in the house. That's what chapatis and rotis, parathas are already stuffed with. Today I'm going to show you how to make a chapati stuffed with some potato. Okay, so let's start making the chapati dough first. If you go on cookie dough, there are lots of recipes for rotis. That's the same as chapati, but I have got my own, which I have used from recipe community, which I've been using for quite some time. So I'm going to use that one. And which has, where I'm going to use 620, I've already weighed it, 620 grams of wheat flour, 500 grams of boiling water, say about 40 grams of oil and some salt. That's it. And you knead it for about 2 to 3 minutes and your dough is ready. Just get some boiling water.
Oh, can you explain what's the difference between using boiling water or just room temperature water?
Yeah, the difference would be that it's partially cooked when you use boiling water and it remains softer. So I prefer to use boiling water. So I'm putting about 500 grams of water.
Thank you.
So I've gone over. So that's fine because I'm using a roti maker. And for roti maker, you need the dough to be a little more stickier than the normal dough. So I'll show you all that.
Funny story about roti makers, okay? So last Friday, as a team, we had a cook-along and we were making these gluten-free wraps, and Pearl had the roti maker and she was making these beautiful roti and I'm trying to roll them out into circles, trying to do what Irene's taught me to do, and then trying to get them off the paper and into the pan. And so last Wednesday, Aldi had a sale on roti makers, so we're all out there buying roti makers. So I think we've all got them in our kitchens now.
And guess what? And I did not buy the roti maker because I had one. And mine yesterday, when I was trying to make chapatis for my kids at home, it started, all fire started coming off and it got burnt. But to my good luck, I have got a husband who is handy. And he went and he opened it up and took off all the burnt wires and replaced them. So I'm lucky. So now I'm going to knead this for about 3 minutes. So while I'm kneading, I had a niece of mine who had come from India for a holiday. And she tells me, she's saying, Auntie, I love chapatis, but the only hassle is to knead the dough. It takes forever. So I told her, okay, I will do the kneading because it's very tedious, and you do the rolling out. So she says, yeah, sure, done. So I did the kneading in the Thermomix. She said, oh, that is so easy. That's not fair. And so,
that's brilliant, Pearl. And of course, for anyone who's not aware, the Thermomix does in 2 minutes what is 25 minutes of kneading by hand.
True. Yeah, and why take the trouble of kneading when you can get someone else to knead for you?
Is Thermomix in India? Has it gone there?
Yes, it is. They have got in India as well now.
Oh, well, your niece should buy one then.
But they don't have a center where I am. I'm from Goa, a place called
Oh,
Goa.
okay.
So they don't have a service center there. So that's the only issue. So I've got 1.5 minutes.
Yeah. So, just would love to know how many of you, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat, how many of you are making bread at the moment? And if so, what are you making?
Wendy, you saw Marilyn asking to share the gluten-free wrap recipe.
Oh yeah, okay. So Marilyn, it's coming out. We have a new low carb book coming out towards the end of, I was going to say next month, but it's this month. It's October, and it's in there. So that'll be very cool. The other place you can find what I think is a really good one is if you go to FionaHoskin.com. She does a lot of gluten-free and dairy-free recipes, and she's got quite a few there that are for free, and she's got one that's called beetroot wraps, and you can also substitute spinach and make them green instead of pink if you want to.
We've had a couple of people type in unsuccessful bread making. Do you want to give us some ideas of what's failed for you so we can try and address it today? Just in the chat box, thanks.
Yeah, continue then, Paul.
Yeah. So I'm almost done. So I'm just going to get the dough ready. And then I will just keep it for about 5-6 minutes. Or then someone else can take over, and then I'll show you how I'm making my chapatis and making paratha from a chapati. This is my dough already. So you can see the steam coming out as well.
Looks amazing. Well,
and now I'm going to put it in my mats. You will get these as your host reward. I'll wrap it in this and keep it for some time, and then I'll make my chapatis later.
Cool.
You can also make your chapatis, fry them, and put them in the fridge, freeze them up, and use whenever you want. Or you can do like me. I put it in an airtight container, and whenever I need, I take out the dough and I make chapatis. So you can do either of that.
Love that. And with your roti maker, it's super quick.
I know it is.
we might have to have a roti making competition in the team or something one day. Anyway, all right. So you're going to put that into the mat now and leave it to prove. Yeah?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
But just keep it for some time, rest it for some time, because there is no yeast in this. It's just plain.
Actually, Paul, can you also lift the dough a little bit with the spatula? I just want to see how sticky it is.
See, you can see how, because I'm making it in the roti maker.
Yeah, okay.
So it actually sticks a bit to your hand as compared to the normal dough. But even this dough you can use on the rolling board, on a board, and roll it with that rolling pin. Put a little flour on top of it and then roll it out.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so Pearl's going to wrap that up and leave it to prove, and we're going to come back to Pearl a bit later, and she's going to show us the amazing roti maker and her roti making skills. So Boone, if you can come back to me, please. Okay, so I've got another 5 minutes on my cauliflower. So what I'm going to just do is take you through, I'm going to share my screen and take you through the cookie dough. And all I've done here is put together, I've gone through, I've added the United Kingdom, United States, Australia, and breads and rolls. So in your filters, you just come in here, you come down to the bottom, you add in your countries. You can see I've got them there already. And in your categories, I've chosen the breads and rolls, which is at the top. So very, very simple thing to do. You do need to make sure you're on recipes, not collections for that, but your default is recipes. This is just really to give you a bit of an idea about how many. So that's 339 results. Look, there will be a couple of double ups in there because we are on, you know, sometimes the recipes are repeated on different countries. But now this stuff here, these things that say artisan bread Betty, and there's something here, crispy flatbread Paul, these are in the US, and they are using some fancy bakeware stuff that we don't have at this point in time, but who knows, we might get it later. But there are so many different things. I mean, look at these. This is the sort of thing that Irene's amazing at. Torta de rose with ricotta, something I can't read because I've got ricotta filling. I know I've got actually a male customer who's made the baguettes and loves them. But there are so many things. The sourdough is very recent on here. It's, there is a mother sourdough starter. We might get Boone to talk to us a little bit about sourdough in a minute because she's the sourdough queen. But there are so many different things. Sourdough pizza base. And the other thing they're using, I can't find one now, but they're using the sourdough leftover, whatever's left over from the starter. As I said, Boone will probably tell you because it's not, can't find anything now, but there are some recipes where they actually use the leftovers of the starter. But look at all these beautiful potato files. I'm sure we could probably do those in our roti makers as well. That's an Irish recipe. Garlic and coriander naan, masala bread rolls. Look at this. I mean, it's sort of pretty much endless. Oh, here we go. Sourdough starter, that's a banana bread, but this is something else. What's that one? Sourdough starter, discard biscuits. So, you know, again, you know, mean zero waste. Sourdough discard English muffins. So there's a whole lot of stuff in there, different things. The pretzel, oh no, that's the pretzel bread. We're going to see the pretzels shortly with Nicole. But there are so many things in there. So all you need to do is put in those filters. And then if you're actually looking for gluten-free, we'll just come up to the top here. Then you just go into the filters here, you scroll down, and you'd put in gluten-free. I'm just going to scroll a little bit further. The tag will come up. So now we've got 41 recipes. So, so it's just very, very simple way to find out. I mean, it's a fantastic looking gluten-free breads and pizza bases and things too. Low carb burger buns. That seed and nut bread is delicious for anybody who's into. Oh look, tortillas. Let's have a look at that one. Someone with the gluten-free tortillas. Let's have a look at that one. Yeah, that's actually with the flax seeds. So that's something you can absolutely try too. All right, how am I going? I have 1 minute left. Okay, stop sharing. Yes, yeah, the US recipes are metric, but if you're on a TM5 or a TM6, then once you're using a US recipe, it will automatically change the units of measure to the if it's US and it's pounds and ounces, it will go to pounds and ounces. It will also tell you your oven in Fahrenheit, so you do need to make sure that you get your head around that and do a little bit of a Google and find out what it is in Celsius. 33 seconds. All right. So what I'm going to do very quickly in a minute is I'm going to drain my cauliflower. I then have to actually squeeze as much cauliflower out, as much water out of the cauliflower as I can. That big bowl out so I can do that. And just make up the mixture. And the thing with gluten-free pizza bases is that you generally need to cook them beforehand. So I'm going to, once I've made this recipe, made the mixture up. I'm going to put it on a tray and going to cook it for 10 minutes on each side in the oven, and then add my toppings and then bake. It does mean we can still enjoy pizza, so that's good. All right. Obviously, that's a bit hotter now than it was first time when I put the stuff in there. So I'm just going to pull my pull that out. Just sit it in there a minute. Take out my water. And it basically says, next, remove the simmering basket and discard any water left in the bowl. Hold the simmering basket under cold running water to cool the cooked cauliflower. So I'm just going to quickly do that behind you here. Otherwise, I'm going to get very hot hands when I try and squeeze all the water out. A bit more. And then I'm going to, so hold the simmering basket. Place the cauliflower on a clean, dry tea towel. And holding it over the bowl, squeeze into a ball to remove as much liquid as possible. So I'm going to just tip my cauliflower out onto here. Another little shake first, it's not too wet. Quite a lot of water coming out. It says remove as much liquid as possible. There are quite a few different gluten-free pizza bases, but even though, you know, I can have some grains and things, I actually prefer the vegetable side of things. So, which also means that I'm pretty sure, oh no, we've got cheese in it. I was going to say paleo, but paleo is no doubt. But there are some paleo breads on. Who would have thought? You get so much water out. I don't know if you can see, but a lot of water came out of that. Right. So I'm going to put in my cauliflower now. Okay. 2 medium eggs, which we've got in here. 1 teaspoon of dried oregano. This is one of the things I filled up yesterday. It's a sauce, which is exciting. Didn't have to go and buy a plastic packet in the supermarket and didn't have to get another jar. Just take your jar along, they weigh it for you, and then you fill it up with whatever you want. So this is garlic. It's actually granules because I don't have the powder. I could make it powder in my Thermomix, I suppose, if I wanted to. Oops. Sea salt. Oh, they also sell salt in bulk too. And some pepper. $35 grams of my Parmesan cheese. Okay. Hold it on. Just going to mix for 20 seconds.
Mandy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
There's a question about where you go for your spices.
Oh yeah, so I just went yesterday actually for the first time after our zero waste class we had a couple of weeks ago. The source bulk foods. So there are various of them around the country, and they're amazing. You just go in there, you just take your container, they weigh your container first, and then you fill it up with whatever you want and go back and pay for what's in there. Very cool. All right, so transfer to prepared tray. So that's my mixture there. So you see, it's a good job. You amazing all that water that came out, but you need it out there because otherwise it would be just sort of falling out, like pouring out. All right. Okay, and I'm just going to, it says it's going to be a free form pizza, okay? Which is probably going to go right to the edge. My tricky bit's when I've got to turn it over and cook the other side. All right. So that's basically it, like that. And then it says I've got to bake for 10 minutes and I've got to flip it over. Lucky I've got 2 of these mats and bake for a further 10 minutes. So what we're going to do now is going to go to Irene Boone, and she will give us lots of wonderful, amazing hints as she always does.
Hi everyone. Okay, so last night I pre-made a lot of the dough, so I'll go through that process. I've got lots of notes I want to read through to try and, I guess, address some of the issues people have with making bread. And if you've got questions, please type them into the chat box when I get to the end of this list, and there might be some stuff we address from that as well. So the first thing is your yeast. So I store my yeast in the freezer. I don't store it in the fridge. It actually extends the shelf life. So once you buy the yeast, don't worry about the use by date, just pop it into the freezer. It does not freeze rock hard, and you can just keep using it. So I've had, when I'm, it will not go off. So just don't be tempted to throw it out. I guess the other thing too is with yeast, it's about not burning the yeast. So a lot of the recipes you use is a Thermomix. It talks about popping the water in, pop the yeast in, pop it on 37 degrees and let that start the process of basically warming up the water and warming up the yeast to start that activation process. Now that's absolutely fine when you're making the pizza dough, basic bread dough, anything where you're kneading the dough for about, even anywhere sort of up to sort of 4 or 5 minutes, it would be okay. Where I don't necessarily agree with that process is things like brioche dough. Brioche dough could knead for 10 to 15 minutes. I'm sure you've all experienced this when you're kneading the dough. If you've had it in there for a little while, you can start to feel the ingredients start to warm up, and that's what we call friction heat. So that's that spinning. Whether you're using a stand mixer to do bulk or whether you're using a Thermomix, you're going to start to heat up that mixture. And what that can do is if you've used gone to that 37 degrees and you're starting to add more, other ingredients that will impact on that temperature, is you can tend to kill the yeast. So all of my recipes, I actually skip that whole step of warming it through. I literally use tepid water. So just take the chill out from the tap, and that's just enough through that process, whether you're making a pizza dough right through to something that needs to knead for 10, 15, possibly even 20 minutes, so that you don't end up killing the yeast. So that works really, really well. Where do I buy my yeast? Just from the supermarket. You can buy them in bulk as well. I've not seen yeast isn't something that can live out of the fridge. So once it's in those containers, it's airtight. I want to talk about 3 different types of yeast though. So your yeast from the supermarket, you've probably all seen those little sachets. Some of you might even buy Logan's in that little red container. That's what we call instant dried yeast. So instant dried yeast does not need to sit in any liquid to start to ferment. It literally can get thrown in with the flour, mix through, and it'll activate. You've then got dried yeast. Dried yeast, same sort of thing, but that has to be started in the water. So you have to go through that process of, I guess, activating it with warm water to get that process to start. So instant yeast is probably what 99% of us use. We've got the dry yeast, which you have to activate. And then you've got fresh yeast. Fresh yeast you can pick up from most delis. Some of your bakeries might be happy to sell you some as well. So the ratio for fresh yeast is twice as much. So if the recipe calls for, say, 2 teaspoons of dried yeast, you'd use about 20 grams of fresh yeast. So just double it. So that's really, really important. Yesterday was really, really hot. So not only is my room temperature hotter, my flour would be warmer, my water's a bit warmer, that whole process is a little bit hotter. So honestly, that 37 degrees is not a problem for pizza dough, bread dough, but I also made brioche dough. So I make sure I use tepid water for that because I had it kneading for about 15 minutes yesterday. Okay, Pearl mentioned a sticky dough before. There's a huge temptation to throw extra flour in when you're working with a sticky dough. Don't do that. If you're adding too much flour into your dough, you're going to end up with a crumbly, dry mixture that often doesn't have the room to expand either. So it toughens and becomes a bit crumbly. So instead of doing that, and you'll find if you do a focaccia dough or even some of our gluten-free doughs, they're quite a wet mixture. Don't be tempted to add more flour. Use something like a spray oil on your hands or on your scraper to help you lift that dough, and even on your mat as you're rolling out, just to prevent that process. What else have we got? Okay, most of the recipes also talk about kneading that dough, letting it rise the first time, shaping and baking. I prefer to let my dough rise 3 times. So that's pretty time consuming for most people. So what I'll show you here is, I'll call this my Shrek dough. It's basically pizza dough with some spinach leaves in it. We'll get that cover off. So what happens is the dough rises the first time. So I made it last night. Once it rises the first time, I knock it back. And it actually rises a second time in the fridge. So what I'm effectively doing is I'm letting it do that second rise in the fridge overnight while I'm sleeping. And then in the morning or in the afternoon or now when I'm ready to start using it, I then knock that air out again, shape it, and you'll get my third rise before I bake. And the reason you want to do that is because it actually softens the rolls. Anyone who's made rolls with a single rise finds that the next day they're really a bit tough and chewy. I mean, that happens with bread as well from, I guess, sitting outside, but it actually helps to lengthen the life of your, lengthen the life and the softness of the bread. So that third rise is really, really important. Really, really great to do that with brioche dough, and I've got some brioche dough because it's so much easier to work with. Anyone who's made brioche dough straight from the thermix, it's really stretchy and really hard to fold and work with. So do yourself a favour and pop it in the fridge, makes it so much easier, which you'll see in a minute. What's next? We've got, so I call that the refrigeration process. I also do that for cheap sourdough. So when I smell this, it starts to smell really yeasty, almost beer-like. And the longer you leave it, it's starting to develop all of those sourdough flavors. So if I didn't use this today and I let it go for 3 or 4 days, it would smell like beer. At that point, it's quite sour. You can use it. What I would generally do is I would probably make another batch of dough and mix that in with that dough. And what you'll end up with is effectively a sourdough. You can keep some of that dough, use it with your next batch. That's generally how we make our Greek bread as well. So a really good way to do cheap sour. Okay, we've all heard this. Allow your dough to double in size. I love that. One of the, sorry? I can hear someone talking in the background. Don't do that. So you really need to test your dough. I think the best way to explain it is if you press on the sort of the fleshy part of your hand, as you squeeze down, you get that instant spring back. That instant spring back means there's not enough height in it. If you're squishing down and it's sinking really, really hard and it's not getting a spring back, your dough's overproofed. If you're pushing it down and it comes back really, really slowly, you know your dough's ready to bake. And yes, generally, double size is enough, but that testing method's really, really important, particularly with the humidity and the heat we've currently got in Melbourne. Okay, if you do overproof it, it tends to deflate, it starts to lose all its gas and it goes flat in the oven, so you'll know when it's gone too much. Slicing your dough. I made I guess a country loaf last night. So the reason I've got my cast iron dish here. If you don't have a steam oven, and not a lot of people do, there's a couple of ways to incorporate that crusty exterior, which you can probably hear me tapping. You can use a cast iron pot to do that. And basically what I did is I shaped my loaf. I had it on the baking sheet to help me lift it and put it into my dish. You see how gorgeous and crusty that is, and you can still hear the tapping today. I do that, and it needs steam to do that. And what happens when you pop the lid on is you're keeping all of that steam within the pot, and that's what's giving you that gorgeous thick crust. If you don't do that, you can use things like, you can get these at your supermarket as well. As soon as you pop the loaf in on your tray, spray the inside of the oven and close that door really, really quickly. You can also achieve it by throwing a couple of ice cubes in the bottom of your oven, and that steam that it forms, it's really that first 10 minutes. If you can get that steam into your oven in that first 10 minutes, you're going to get that gorgeous crust. On the flip side, you don't like crusty bread, you like really soft buns. Don't do that. Obviously, don't use the water. The other option is to add things like milk powder. Milk powder is really, really good to, if you're looking at our milk buns, milk powder really softens the bread. There's some really lovely soft, those Chinese buns, they're brilliant with that. You can see my little score mark on the top of my bread there. I did that with a product called I don't know, it's a lame or a lame. It's one of these. So it's effectively a serrated blade that you use to cut through your loaf. You don't cut straight, you kind of cut it on a slight angle. We will be having these on our mix shop sometime next year, but if you're in a hurry, you can get one now. Or if you maintain yourself a really super sharp knife and keep that aside, then you can use the knife to give you those score marks. The score marks are really, really important for a couple of reasons. It obviously allows your bread to expand. If you don't put those score marks in, you're going to get massive cracks on the side of your bread because that gas needs to escape. It needs to expand as it's rising in the oven. So make sure you give it those slits. Okay, moving on. Sorry, 1 second, guys, because my mum needs a hand. Okay, Mum. Not so good on their legs these days. All right, let's go back to this. Okay, so we talked about steam, so the spray bottle, the ice cubes, and really, really important, don't open the door. Okay, we talked about the yeast comparison. Okay, sugar. Sugar in your dough. So I know some of you are tempted, if you're cutting sugar out of bread, you're probably not eating bread. But the sugar does a couple of things. It obviously feeds the yeast. So we're not talking about a lot. It could be something as simple as half a teaspoon. The other thing that is really, really good with the sugar is that colour. So if you're not putting any in, you're getting really blonde rolls. So if you want a little bit of colour, a sprinkling of sugar is really, really awesome. It obviously adds flavour as well as texture. Okay, we've all heard of bread improver. What is it? So bread improver is a powder. You don't use a lot. It's probably a quarter of a teaspoon that you pop in with your loaf as you're kneading it. So what does it do? Bread improver basically helps improve the texture of your loaf, and it actually extends its shelf life. So it actually ends up with a lighter loaf, extends its shelf life, greater texture. So it's something you definitely want to use. You don't have to buy it. You can actually substitute bread improver by adding, and I'm going to quote this is off the Luke website. So 3 teaspoons of sugar per kilo. So if you're using a ½ kilo recipe, which is what most of them are in the Thermomix, using 1½ teaspoons of sugar to roughly 20 mils of vegetable oil. So that's going to give you the equivalent of what you need to replace bread improver. It's fabulous. I love this stuff. Okay, most of this stuff I've given you is off this brand's website. So they're called Luke. Okay, baker's flour. You can get this from your Safeway supermarket. The Luck brand, this brand here is a brand from South Australia. They use certified non-genetically modified wheat. I've always used their flours, find that the results are brilliant. So strongly recommend those. All right, any questions? Yell out, Boo. Otherwise I'm going to start. So let's get all this other stuff out of the way. And we'll get rolling with some dough.
Yep, go ahead. No questions so far. Well, except to ask you to write a book with all those tips.
Oh. Well, the good thing is this video is on YouTube once we finish. So you can go back and watch it as often as you like. And I'm going to switch cameras so I can show you some of the folding techniques to help you. So bear with me while I do that. And switch over to, yeah, brilliant. Okay, so put this up slightly so you can all see it. Okay, I've turned my mat upside down. Mum's cut into it, so on the other side. Try not to cover your mats. I'll probably replace a few for my mum. But they have, you know, the material that they're made of is not safe. It's not food safe once you cut through it. So on the other side, it's okay. I think she's just cut, like she's been cutting something sideways. So you can see that that dough, a bit like the one that Pearl was using, is just a touch sticky. So again, don't be tempted to use more flour in it. Oh, by the way, my Shrek dough, this is for the mums that are having problems feeding kids their greens. I just use a little bit of spray oil. I'm just using a rice bran oil, just any neutral oil, just a tiny amount on my hand, and it just makes it easier for me to move and work with that dough, yeah? All right, the other thing you can do is lightly spray your mat. And of course, these mats are available on the knit shop. Okay. I'm going to spray my mother's industrial size rolling pin. And we're going to start to roll out. Now it's much easier to do this, obviously, when the dough is from the fridge, purely because it is nice and firm. These out of the way. Use your hands, whatever you've got really. I probably should have pulled it out. It's good to pull it out a good 10 minutes before you start, just to help take the edge off slightly. That contraction that you're getting, which you can see it lifting there, it just needs to rest. So just give it the time it needs. So about 60 grams of spinach leaves into, this is just a little bit too cold. I might come back to this, start rolling out some of the other ones and come back to it. Yep, no. I'm going to come back to it, guys. It's just a little bit too firm. Don't do that. Just pop it over here. Over here. Okay. So someone asked about babka, chocolate babka before. Chocolate babka. We don't want any green stuff in there. Chocolate babka is essentially brioche dough. That brioche dough recipe is obviously on the Thermomix. The chocolate filling is a combination of powdered sugar, cocoa powder, butter. There might be one or two others. You can put nuts in there. Really, options are endless. Okay, so I'm going to make a couple of different styles of filled brioche. Okay, and I'm going to make some brioche buns. So basically, I've already rolled out a brioche bun, but just for those that are home, once you get your dough out of the fridge, let it rest for a bit. Essentially, you're rolling the dough and pinching it back in towards itself so that you're getting that smoothness and using, I guess, your hand kind of like shaped as a cup sort of over there, but I'm using the underneath part to kind of lift the bottom of that dough, which you'll see as I'm doing that to give me that perfect round bun. Now the size you do is really up to you. I'd weigh these out at 100, which is going to give me a large size. So remember, it's going to double in size. It's going to give me a large size bun. You want to do little minis, probably about 70 grams is fine. So that's my round one, perfect, ready to go. Okay. It's all happening here. Swapping trays, left to right, up and down. Okay, next one. So this is giving me basically just different styles of, you know, I guess knot rolls. I'm doing it with brioche bun, but just to give you an example. So when I flatten it out, what I'm trying to do is get all the air out And then when I'm bringing it together, I'm squashing this down. And what that allows me to do is I keep going round and round and round. Gosh, I'm getting green. See how easy it is to cross-contaminate. Okay. It's giving me the ability to roll this out into my log, but I'm getting a nice even length. Okay, that roll underneath, tuck in and under and over, and that's giving me my knot roll. Pull that one down a little bit more. So that's your knot roll. Popping these onto my tray. Next one. Use your pastry cutter. I'm going to roll this one into, or pop this one into 3. This is definitely one of my favorite designs. For those that haven't plaited hair, I'm sure you can watch this on YouTube somewhere. But shoot your questions. Boone will read them out to me. So 3rd one down. Pinch the edges
Everyone is
together.
so absorbed, Irene. We're just watching you.
Cool. Okay, so knot. I'm just doing a plait. Again, pinch the 2 ends together. If you lift it and roll it in amongst itself, I'm just pinching that bottom underneath. What you end up with is that beautiful knotted look. Really lovely if you're doing large loaves of brioche. Okay. One of my other favorites I'm going to do. So, okay, it's starting to stick again. So again, a little bit on my hand. Okay. Oh. Don't worry about the points. I'm actually wanting those. Okay. Right. This lovely substance. It's basically brown sugar, light brown sugar. I've got some butter in here and some cinnamon. I'm going to pop that in here. This could be Nutella, jam. What other fillings do you like? What's everyone buying? Vegemite scrolls, cheese. Okay. I then bring my edges together. I'm really going to close it. Okay, so it looks like a pasty. I'm going to squash that down, just make sure they're sealed, nice and tight. And we're going to squish it again. Don't stress if the filling comes out. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Again, with your pastry cutter, no knife on here. I'm just going to slice, 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 slice. Bring it out a tiny bit longer. Okay. And roll, and roll, and roll, 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 roll. You then bring those ends together.
Are you okay?
And sit down like that. Okay. These are beautiful once they're baked, which you'll see. Okay. Scrapers are good. Keep your wet space clean. Okay. Let's do, I'll do some more of those. I just want to show you the big one. So I've kept about 700 grams of dough here. I'll knock it down a little bit. Okay. These in my container. How are we going for time, Andy?
I think you just need to keep going because everyone's loving what you're doing.
You know me, I could be here all day. And a bit like earlier, this is really cold and I was a bit slow in getting it out of the fridge. So I'm not getting a lot of traction on that. So I'm going to come back to it. Let's leave that one for now. Let's go back to our Shrek. Okay. Much better. See what a little bit, you know, what was that, 5 minutes? What a difference 5 minutes has made. Guys, and I'm not worried about perfect corners and edges. It's really not that critical. See? How professional am I making this look? Not?
Your mat's not cooperating with you.
It's not cooperating with me at all, is it? Okay, again, you put the oil. Okay, like I said, I'm not particularly stressed. Okay, so this recipe is called, gosh, I've already forgotten. It's the spinach, it's a three spinach scrolls with three cheese spinach scrolls or something like that. I'll find it, but I'm just going to squish it out a little bit more. So, but you get the idea. Try and go the length of the mat. I think that recipe asks for, you know, like 3 different styles. I'm just doing some feta cheese, some of my mother's dodoni. Now there's a temptation to fill it up, which is okay, I guess. But the more you put into it, the thicker it gets. Okay, and then we're rolling. You don't want super tight here. A little bit loose is okay. You can roll it this way. I want a slightly fatter scroll. Okay. All right. Now, here comes the fun part, cutting it. Again, there's a temptation to get the knife out. Don't do that. The other challenge you have with this is it tends to squash it. So go into your bathroom, get yourself some floss. I'm going to do my funky looking end down here, slide it underneath. Work out kind of the size you want. Pull your 2 pieces together. Didn't quite do that properly. And you've got your scroll through here. I'm going to do my other end as well. You can't see it. Okay. That's my other end. And I've got that layer happening through it. So that's going to go onto my baking sheet. And you can pop these into, you know, give them about an inch apart. They will expand and then join back together. I want to show you one other style. So you can keep going with that option. I'm going to show you this one as well. Okay, take your...
Irene, can you just move your, if you can,
Yes,
just move it up a bit, that's it.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so I'm using my cutter to go through the middle, and I'm cutting this lengthwise. And of course, depending on what's in here, you're going to get much more definition. And I guess if I was using yellow cheeses, you're going to see that as well. So I'm just splitting those halves, yeah? Yeah, and put some spray on your hand if you're not comfortable, you're finding it too hard to work with. So I'm stretching it out a little bit because you can. It's got really good flexibility now. And I'm just going to plait it and plait it and plait it. And it's going to stick really nicely at the other end. Put your hands underneath, up onto your tray. You could do a log, let it come back into a circle. That would work really, really well as well. Bear with me, I'm just going to wash my hands so I can go back to the brioche dough. Okay, this needs to proof. The way I do that, clean tea towel over the top, pop it aside. Won't take very long at all. The room is boiling hot. Get rid of that nut. Just come back to my brioche. I'm going to pull out one of the other rolling pins so we don't end up with green stuff all over it. Okay, choose everything. Back to this one. Still a bit cold. You'll get the idea. With this one, I want to get the length of my mat. I'm going to keep, oh, whoops, no. We're going to cut this again, don't worry about tears. But you do want to get it as thin as we can go. I'm not going to camera with my head. Okay. Back to my mixture. So for those interested, this is 150 grams of unsalted butter with 250 grams of brown sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm using an offset spatula just to make this process much, much quicker and easier. You do not want a mountain of this stuff on here. So spread it out thinly. If you've made a lot of mixture, and you'll see I've actually got a fair bit left over, just freeze it. Just pull it down as you need. It's really nice, even on toast in the morning. It's that healthy. Now swap the sugar out. If you don't want to use brown sugar, you need something that's going to give you that molasses type flavour. So you can use a maple. So this could be for the person that was doing wanted a chocolate babka. Find your chocolate filling recipe. This is the brioche dough. And this next technique will give you those gorgeous lines that you're looking for. Okay, so we're coming up a third. I'm using the mat to lift up a third. Sort of, close enough. Got my filling back in there. I'm bringing the other side up, down a third. Okay, so we end up with this lovely mixture I'm just going to cut the ends off because I want to see the filling down the side. I don't throw these out. That's my reward, my little snack for later. Okay, so I'm going to cut these into, I'm going to start with the middle. I want to get roughly equal sizes. So I'm just going to mark them off. So mark those there. So roughly, actually I didn't quite do that properly, did I? Never mind. Just give those. Okay, cut, 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 cut. Okay, so we've got our little piles. I'm not going to do all of these, I'll do them off camera, but just to show you together. Okay, so let's do a couple together. And remember, for the person wanting to do the big babka, so squish this down a bit. So we're going to spread it out. So we're getting it slightly thinner. You're going to cut two parts from this. Yep, everyone happy with that? So just a little bit longer. Okay, you're going to fold. We've lost a bit. I'm going to pop it back on, doesn't matter. Fold, fold. And then essentially you bring that underneath. So you end up with that style. So you're getting those nice little lines. All of this beautiful butter sugar is going to caramelize as it bakes. And I'm literally popping those into, this is an industrial size muffin tray, but they will puff up. So that's what they look like. I'll do one more and then we can move over to Nicole or back to Mandy. I think Mandy, you still got to show the pizza, yeah?
No, when you finish, we're going to go to Irene, because I've just put, you are Irene, to Nicole, because I've just put the topping on my pizza.
Yep, you can leave this shape as well. Sorry, get out of the camera. You can leave it that shape. I'm going to do one of those. And I'm going to keep going with these while you guys, let's go over to Nicole.
Thanks, Irene.
You're welcome.
So hi everyone, I hope you can hear me all right. Sorry, it's quite warm in our kitchen now. I'm hoping that this hasn't overproofed at this stage, but it should be all right. Now I've done, same as Irene did, I made this dough earlier and it's been sitting around waiting for my action. Now this is the pretzel dough that's on cookie dough. It's got full cream milk, dried yeast, flour, salt, and that's about it at the moment. Now, the recipe says that you can put this into 10 pretzels. I get a little bit lazy when I start getting away from the machine, so I'm going to do it into 8 because I can easily eye that off to do 8 shapes. And it's a lot easier, thankfully, than what Irene was just doing. I'm not quite up to that yet. So I just keep dividing this. And it's a really soft dough to work with. It's quite light. I think the milk in it makes it very easy to work with. And I'll go half again. So once you've got the size that you're happy to work with, all we're going to do is roll it out as long as we can, basically. It says about 65 centimeters. I've never done that long. I'm not quite that patient. I just do it long enough that I think I'll be able to fold it up happily. It's a really airy dough. As you're rolling it out, you can actually feel the air bubbles in here and you can see little bulges along. And you kind of want them to stay, so you're just gently working them to stretch the dough out without completely flattening the dough. It will stretch out easily. You've just got to be a little bit patient. We made these for an Oktoberfest party that we had, and they're really nice if you're having a couple of drinks. It's a reasonably healthy snack to have. They are best eaten on the day that you make them. They tend to soften up a bit when they've been sitting around.
It was a virtual Oktoberfest party, by the way.
It was a virtual Oktoberfest party. So we were the only ones eating them. Everyone else was a little bit jealous. Now I've got that to a decent length. You'll see online people throw them around. You really don't need to do that. You can keep it fairly simple. All I do is take the U shape and you're turning this around like that and around again. Once you've got that kind of shape, you then lift the arms up to meet the top and you get your pretzel. I'll try and move it around so you can see. So that's the basic shape that you're after. I give it a little shake just to give it a bit more space in between. So you've got your nice gaps. Now at this point, I'm going to put it into the stove behind me. I've got 800 mils of water and I've got 6 tablespoons of bicarb soda. All I'm going to do is throw it into that pot for 10 seconds, just to give it a nice coating of the bicarb, which will help give it a nice finish when it comes out of the oven. So you can see it holds its shape quite well when it comes out of the water. I'm just using a large spatula to help me get it out of the water. But as soon as it comes out, while it's still really wet, you need to sprinkle it with your salt and your sesame seeds to give it a nice crunch when it comes out of the oven. Don't know if I can show you that without slipping. But it really doesn't matter what the shape is. And sometimes when it's in the water, you lose a little bit of shape, but it will hold together in the oven. And by the time it bakes, it will keep its shape. It'll hold quite tight. And all I'm going to do is do a few more of those and I'll stick them in the oven for 12 minutes. And then if you come back to me, I'll show you how they finish up.
Thanks, Nicole. That's amazing. Well done.
So now over to Paul.
Yep, over to Pearl.
Okay, my dough is well rested. So this is what I got. And I'll show you one chapati and I will show you one with stuffing. So you just make it into a round ball. And I'm going to roll it out and roll it out. And it will take me 10 minutes to roll it out. Make a chapati. Here you go, a round chapati.
That's why we were so jealous the other day.
So let this cook, and while this is cooking, I'll show you how I make the one with stuffing. So again, you make it into a round ball. Make it like a hollow. And then I've got some potato vegetable cooked here. This is a bit messy. Put it in the center. Can you all see me clearly?
Yep.
So you put it there and you seal it up. And again, roll it into a ball. So now everything is sealed. This is done. As I said, my roti maker is not up to the mark because it had a bit of an accident yesterday. So I'll just put this aside and I'll show you how I do this. Again, put it there flat, press it up. And this is what you get. I've got some ghee made in my Thermomix. So I'll just put a little ghee on top of it. This is a good way to use up all whatever leftovers you have in the house. And my kids love it. So I don't make it into a paratha by putting a lot of ghee and rolling it out, and then again fold it and roll it. So I just do a shortcut, which is this. It will come up only when the bottom of it is cooked. So because my thing is taking a little longer to heat up. So basically you will get something like this, and then you turn it over, and that's your paratha.
Looks yum.
So any questions?
That's amazing, Pearl. Thank you.
No worries at all. So you get nice round, even shaped chapatis. So that's the good thing.
There is a question from Lorraine. Can it be roasted in a non-stick frying pan?
Yeah, you can. Of course you can. But then you have to roll it out. You'll have to roll it out with the roller, the normal way.
And how long will the paratha stay fresh?
Oh, I haven't tried because in my house it doesn't. Yeah, should last till a day or two.
Yeah, should last 2 or 3 days actually.
Yeah, surely. Yeah,
Yeah.
surely. But now what I'm going to do with this dough is put it in an airtight container, and I have it ready. So I'll show you what my dough of 3-4 days ago, it'll remain like this, and then you can just use it again. So I'll put it in this box and keep it there. And whenever we need, we use it.
Fantastic. And I presume if you do pre-make them, the best way to store them is, as you know, you said you can freeze them, but you'd put them between layers of baking paper or something so they don't stick together?
Yes, you can. Or you fry all and then use it whenever you need. Just take out one and warm it up and use it as a wrap, or use it as a chapati, or whatever way you want it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so
fantastic, Pearl.
So I'm done.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. I'll tell you what, Irene, have you got finished things to show us?
Oh, sorry, wrong one. Irene, are you there? She may not be. You want to do, oh, here she is. Irene.
Sorry, guys, I had to unmute. I was too busy running
sorry.
across the room.
I've just unmute you.
That's okay. I'm just going to switch to the other camera, and then I can show everyone what I've been making. So obviously need the ones that I've made, particularly the brioche dough. It's going to take quite a while to rise. Probably not as much as they normally would, because it's quite warm in here, so they'll be relatively quick, but they'll still be a bit slow. So here are some baked from last night. So that's that kind of that knot, or that plait that I did earlier. I did a couple of those, just your traditional round roll. I've brushed these with an egg wash. I've done kind of an S in opposite directions. So fold the snail one way, fold the snail the other way. I've even used a scissor cut on those. So that's where you basically roll that log out and then take your scissors and slice, fold it to one side, slice, push that to the other. So just keep moving it alternate directions. And I've done it as a log. These look a bit dark, but that's because it's the brioche dough. Brioche dough goes beautifully dark in caramel, and that's that shape that I did earlier, where I sliced through the middle and then rolled it into, and then folded it back in against itself. So all of that beautiful mixtures in the middle there. And the ones that I've rolled earlier, they turn into those little beautiful knots as well. So really, really yummy. So basically my egg wash, it is literally just one egg, whole egg. I've put a pinch of sugar in, a pinch of salt in there. You want that bit of that umami against the sweetness of that beautiful dark brown or light brown sugar. So yeah.
Amazing, Irene. Has anybody got good questions for Irene whilst she's there? And thank you so much for sharing all that information, all those tips and everything. Yeah, I know, but you do an amazing job. Thank you. All right. Okay. So yes, she is a legend, Marilyn. Absolutely. So
thanks, Carol.
my husband is eating the other half of this.
I couldn't wait anymore.
Well, I just thought it was warm. So literally, so I cooked the pizza base on both sides, 10 minutes each side. did flick it over. So if you are doing it, you would either need 2 pieces of baking paper so you can flip it over, or I'm lucky enough I've got 2 of the mats, so I was able to do that. And then I put the topping on, I baked for another 10 minutes. Now, this is not the sort of pizza that you can pick up and hold up. It's going to fall apart, so it is a knife and fork pizza. But there are other gluten-free pizza doughs on Cookie Dough. There is a breakfast pizza, which I'm pretty sure, I can't think, oh, I thought it was in, no, I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely in Australia, the breakfast pizza, and that one you can pick up and you know, eat like a, you know, a slice of pizza. So that is that. We'll just see, we may not have given Nicole enough time. Nicole, can you just come off mute and tell me if any of yours are baked, please?
They've got 5 minutes to go. I can give you how they are at the moment, but they will need another 5 minutes to brown up.
Right. Well, can you just give us a quick showing, please, if possible? That's probably all wrong. Irene will probably tell me off for saying, take it out of the oven.
So as you can see, the tips are starting to brown up.
Oh, yeah.
You do want to leave them in the oven until they are really brown. They're much nicer when they're really crispy on the outside. They puff up a little bit, and like Irene said, I didn't score anything, so they will get natural splits. But you want that. That helps give the look of the pretzel. So you will have different splits. So there'll be lighter sections and darker sections. Sorry, that's very hot. So yeah, by the time they're finished, they will be a really dark brown, but I'll put pictures up on Facebook once they're finished baking.
Beautiful.
If you like.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. And just, if you want to come back to me, Boone.
Yes,
please.
hang on.
So just on those pretzels, I did have a challenge given to me by a customer a few months ago to make bagels, and it's the same sort of technique. So the best bagel recipes, I tried several. I even tried the gluten-free ones, and they were fine. I just don't choose to eat a lot of that stuff. But if you're gluten-free and you want to have the bagels, you can absolutely make them. And I just use gluten-free flour. The best recipe though I found was the one in the UK. So remember, just go to your filters, add in the UK. Their bagel recipe was the best. And the same thing with bagels is that you do cook them in boiling water first, but it was definitely longer than 10 seconds. I think it was a minute and a half, or 45 seconds or a minute, and flip them over and then cook the other side, and then take them out and then bake them. And they worked really well, and they freeze really well as well. Julie Rodsky, I will let you know about the cauliflower pizza. Basically, if you just add in those filters of the UK and the US, and then put in cauliflower pizza, there's 3 different recipes will come up, and any of them will work very well. We have a question for you, Nicole, in the chat. What is the function of the bicarb soda in the water?
I think that helps give the coating on it. When they're done, they will be quite crisp on the outside, and they will be really, really brown. I believe that's what.
It actually changes the pH of the water. This is a really cool tip for anybody wanting to do crispy potatoes. You parboil your potatoes with some bicarb soda in the water. It actually dries the outside, so it does exactly the same thing with the bread. So you end up with a crispy crust. So it's exactly what it's for. So you don't need to use a lot, but it's absolutely brilliant. Really good one for roasting the potatoes, for crispy potatoes.
Wow, thanks, Irene. Fount of knowledge. Okay, so
someone was asking, sorry Mandy, someone was asking about the notes. So if you want a copy of all the stuff that I rambled on about earlier, yeah, we can share it. So just drop a message to your consultant and she'll send you out, or he'll send you out, depending on who your consultant is, the notes. So you can go back and read them. And of course, go back and listen to the video once Mandy posted on YouTube.
Yep, so anyone looking for the video later, just go Mandy Powers YouTube, go up there, and there's a whole lot. There's videos of everything that we've done as a team, our classes. So, you know, just have to give another plug. The zero waste one's up there. Everybody wants to help save the planet. Yeah, so Mandy Powers YouTube, and there's a whole lot of stuff up there. So I'd just like to really thank the team for coming on board. Nicole and Pearl, absolutely brilliant. You know, first go, and you've rocked it. So thank you so much. And Irene, as always, has so much to share. We could just give Irene a whole class to do, I think. But it just shares the load a little bit if we all do a little bit. So thank you so much.
Is Nicole's ready to show?
Oh, is she? Okay. Are they there or not quite?
No, not quite, I think.
Not quite. But they're going to look very much, yeah, as she said, just a bit browner. So that's cool. Yeah, and if anybody wants to be part of the fun.
Sorry, yeah, please join us.
Yeah, join us.
People. So we had a few people right at the beginning saying they didn't have success in making bread. Do they want to come off mute and tell us, or if we've covered it off, then great, we were able to help fix some of the issues you've had. But if there's something we haven't addressed, please tell us. Will you adopt me? Sure, Lorraine. Love it.
Yeah. We are going to do a barbecue class next Saturday morning. I do notice that also Janny Falter's doing one in the afternoon, but you're very welcome to come and join us. We probably do different things anyway, so we are going to do something. Oh, me too. We're going to have a big family. Yeah, I'll tell you the way to be adopted is become a consultant, and then you can hang out with us. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming, and hopefully see you again soon.